Hey guys, and welcome back to another interview. As you can see, we have got Cruz, obviously coming in from Talon, and hey, I just want to ask, how's everything been going? Obviously, new look team, everything changing, but how have you been?
It's been a rough couple of months, I'd say, like, cause there's a lot of changes in the team, and yeah, so it's definitely not been great in my own perspective, but
Hmm.
overall it's okay.
Okay. Well, I wanna look back a little bit because I think you're someone in terms of your history before Valorant. At least for me personally, I don't know a massive amount about it. I know you played a little bit of CS:GO beforehand, but I want to know firstly like what got you into gaming, and then also did you play much in terms of like competitive stuff before you got into Valorant?
So before Valorant, I played a bit of CS:GO, but the how I got into CS:GO was because I had a gap year.
Okay.
So that gap year was because I got into dentistry, but then we decided not to go through with me studying in dentistry because it's gonna cause us a lot of financial problems.
Okay.
So I took the gap year instead and just did applied chemistry the next year. But during that 1 year gap, like I just played a lot of games and then I just started playing um just putting investing more time into CS:GO basically.
Okay. So something I'm always interested in is like local scenes. I know, like from coming from CS:GO myself, especially coming from like Asia, Pacific, anywhere around that region, it's really, really difficult to sort of make it into that top tier. Was that something you found when playing CS? Like, because again, I know you played like some ESEA Open, I know you played some like local tournaments, but in terms of getting to any of the big ones, that didn't really seem to be on the radar.
Um I mean, I think it's very different because when I was playing CS:GO, I was playing for fun. Like,
Okay.
cause yeah, I wasn't really that competitive. I was just like in my studies, I just have my free time and then just join like a team with a friend, and then it just happened to be like more competitive on
Hmm.
along the way. But then when Valorant came out, I it was actually like a my career path I chose because at that time I was gonna get the same salary I'm gonna get in if I apply for a job.
Okay.
Yeah, or I played Valorant. So I was like, yeah, why not play Valorant? So I told my parents I'm just gonna give it a try for a year. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
Yeah, I think that's the classic esports is I'll give myself a year. If it works, great. If it doesn't, we'll see how it goes. But in talking about Valorant, like you said, you gave yourself a year. I don't even think you needed a year. Like after like a fairly short stint in Magic Esport, you moved to X10 like fairly quickly. I think it was before the game had even been out a year. How did that
Yeah.
whole thing come about? Because you seem to go straight to the top very, very quick.
So when I was in Magic Esports, like everyone's just like play testing, like just trying to see the meta, still like trying to find the best team together. But
Hmm.
then when XTEM came through, they were like, "Yo, we're trying to put in like the best team we could possibly find in that time, and are you willing to join?" I'm like, "Yeah, for sure. Like, I really want to play, and I really want to be on the best team and put in like all my effort into gaming."
Well, from there, I think many people will know some of the names that were on that list. I think that's the thing that's most surprising to me is I kind of forget how sort of quickly you found that core of players because I believe even just the first roster was you, Foxy, Sushi Boys, Scary, and then someone called Pooh, who I don't know too much about, but that's crazy that from the get-go it seemed like the scouting of that team was incredible. Were you part of the scouting or was that done by somebody else?
It was done by the owner, basically.
Okay.
Like it was done by the owner and the guy named Pooh.
So the one guy who didn't continue in the future was the guy who found all of you guys. Because that is
Yeah.
mental. Because up until recently, you were playing with the majority of those players.
It was actually like um more of like internal problem where it caused him to like had to
Okay.
leave the team more of like that, not really his skill set.
All right. So very quickly from there, I would say you definitely became the best Thai team, but also I'd say at the time you were probably the best team in the entirety of SEA. Was that something that kind of shocked you that this team was formed and it just clicked, everything worked?
When I look back, yeah, definitely. Like for some reason, it's it's very rare. Like
Mm,
seeing how we started having roster changes and everyone to be in a perfect fit like what we actually had the past years. So it's like it's amazing to me that we were like it felt like it just meant to be like all the people
mm.
finding our ways into the team and then making it work.
So up until then, you sort of went into that first Masters event. That was obviously with Paddy Pan as well. I would say that your team was one I enjoyed watching because of how creative you guys were. Like I still remember one of the first Descent games we saw you play. You had Paddy Pan instead of a duelist. He was playing Sage, doing some of the craziest walls and shit I've ever seen in my life. Who was sort of the creative mastermind behind your roster? Because I think every single iteration of this team has done some amazing shit and done some weird shit. And I want to know, is that all you? Was that Zeus the coach, or was it a combination of everybody?
It was a combination of everybody. Like Scary is our main controller and he has that like unique idea of how he wants to play his agent. I
Mm.
play Breach and like the initiators. I like to watch a lot of VS VODs, so I'll try to add in like the set traps, stuff like that. And then Patty just watches a lot of Grim and and like, all this crazy stuff when we just add into it one by one. And Fox is like he's he's also like bright, so he has like
mm.
ideas of how he wants to play the game, how he wants to play his Sova, stuff like that. So and Sushi also his setup, he have him has I mean he has his turret to like we're like the first I think we were like the first team that uses the turret to spot and then we flash and then we do
Mm.
all those kind of stuff. Yeah, that's like how we everybody's just shipping in effort and then it came out that way.
Yeah, because I think one of the ones I remember was some of the mid traps you set up once KO was in the meta was just like disgusting. Like someone would make a contact, a flash would come out, and you just destroy the whole team. And I think a lot of people would look at that at your roster and go, "Oh, they're just playing like really aggressive." It's like, no, no, there were so many sort of different layers and depths to this. But I feel like, especially at the time, you guys just did it incredibly well, and that sort of leads into my next question when you played up against some of the best teams in the world, like your optics, I feel like you might have known that this was coming. You guys always seem to either give them a run for their money or beat them. Were you countering these teams, or do you just think some of them came in, underestimated you, and then you were able to just come out on top?
Um, like the thing we always say as a team is like we'll never play like counter a specific team because we don't know who we're gonna play.
Mm,
But for Optic, like we can't really counter them because how they play is like it's like they play off information in the game, like because how FNS is calling. So we're just trying to stick to our own game plan and see if it works, basically.
okay. So the core of your roster for a very, very long time sort of stuck together. Obviously, people came in and out. I think Duelist was one of those things. Was it that you felt like the synergy of this roster was very, very good? Or was it when looking at some of the other Thai options, it was like, okay, we maybe can't go as deep as some other talent pool is, so we'll just stick together for as long as we did?
I think we just felt that we had so much synergy and we were one of the like the smartest and the strongest in the region.
Okay.
Um, there are a lot of talented players as in terms of like raw mechanical skills. If you guys watch like the Thai leagues, they they have very high level of mechanical
I love
skills.
John
Like
Olsen.
just yeah, yeah. Like there's like 5 or 10 Forsaken in the scene. I'll say.
Okay, damn. All right. That's a
Yeah,
bold claim.
yeah. But like in terms of aim wise,
Okay.
but apart from that, I can probably say like they don't know how to play the game in a high level yet. Like they
Okay.
can just basically shoot. So that's why we can't really pick them up to actually make the team stronger. when we have people who have a lot of experience um in high level plays already, so it doesn't really match how we are gonna play it in the future. That's why we could only change one or two guy at max,
Mm.
and then just try to give them like as you can see, Surf he has no experience whatsoever, but he just has good aim, and
Yeah.
that's how we taught him how we are gonna play the game. We're just four of us guiding one person is pretty much fine.
Okay. Well, that was one of the things I was going to sort of mention is that the core of your roster stayed together, but the one thing that I felt like you were always kind of looking for was that duelist. You had Pooh originally, Padipan played it, Surf played it, Garnets. You even had a time where Zeus was playing it, which I will say I'm not so certain about that one. But is that one of the sort of positions you feel like within the Thai scene is kind of tough to find? Because as you said, I feel like a lot of those individuals were like crazy good in terms of their skill. But we're now looking at you guys bringing in someone for like, well, who was playing in America and is Korean. So evidently there must be something missing there.
First, Patty was like it was unlucky that he moved to Overwatch. Like it
Yeah.
was his decision even before we went to champs. So we knew that we had to find a replacement. But for Surf, it's like the meta that year was Chamber and Jet.
Yeah.
Like, mostly Chamber. And he was very good on those agents, but his hero pool was very weak at that time. He couldn't really play Raze, and then when when Chamber was out of the meta, like which basically when we moved to Talon, it was really hard to like pick a guy who can't really play Raze, but Raze is in the meta.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, that's probably why we were trying to like find the right person for the job basically, and somehow it's just hard.
Mm. So one of the main, I think it was a shock for many, including us. I don't know how it was for you, but Scary to Bleed. That was one of those things just before franchising. Obviously, he's someone who I think we could both admit is a fantastic player. But was that as big a surprise for you guys as it was for us when he left that core of the roster?
No, because I think we all are kind of transparent with what we're trying to do,
Okay.
and like we like I've heard the offer and like bro, there's no way you're not taking it, right?
Okay.
Like yeah, that's why we were all grateful that um we made this team up from scratch
Mm.
and we got to a point where he got that offer. So it means that what we're doing is like, it didn't go to waste. People see our potential and we're happy for him to,
Get the bag.
be yeah, basically.
Will you be? Is there going to be a small part of you though that when you look to play them this year that goes, nah, I'm taking him down. Like he got his money, but I'm taking him out.
For sure. Like for sure. I know like all my players we play against each other. Like I just played against Fox and Sushi the
Mm,
last tournament and like, we know each other. Like
okay.
I know I can take you down, bro. Like it just depends on the day, like for sure.
Oh god. Well, getting towards partnership, as said, like you came into franchising, things had changed because Scary had left, and you brought in two young players, as you mentioned. One of them being Garnets, who like went into the sort of duelist role, and obviously the other is Jit Boys, who's stuck around with this. I think it's clear that again there was a lot of talent within this team, but filling shoes like someone like Scary and obviously Paddy, who at the time I think was sort of on the roster but not at the beginning of the season. How do you sort of integrate those two young players who are almost looking to go straight into the top league?
That was the toughest part for me and Fox, I would say at the time. Like that's why we changed a lot of things in the team regarding like who was gonna call, how we wanted to play, and it was just very tough for us where
Mm,
when we only have Zeus as our coach, and we need to teach two guys at the same time. And
yeah.
like during scrims, there were some ridiculous plays, like outrageous plays that when like if you guys watch it, it's crazy. Like coming out from those young players, which we totally understand why because they're kind of inexperienced, but we see their potential. But we had to work with that, and it was very tough for us to have that synergy with like trying to improve as well.
Mm,
So that was like the hard part. So when we started changing players mid-season, which kind of like you know kind of like messed up everything because
mm.
we have two weak players in terms of like the synergy in the team, and now we're like mixing them up, so it's like it's even harder to actually play together as a team.
Yeah. Well, I will say the start of the year looked pretty good. Like when you went into lock-in, I think expectations, because you had brought in a couple of young players and hadn't changed much. I don't think expectations were massively high, but the match, I think I got to cast the match you played versus DRX, and that was just an insane game. I've also heard rumors that that Harbor Viper on Icebox. Now, I think DRX were the first to play it, but I heard rumors that maybe you guys came up with it, like, or was it just like a? Because I know this is the thing. Everyone claims they come up with comps, so I'm curious. Are you claiming that one?
So we played it first, 100%. We played it first
Okay.
in scrims, but we decided not to go through with that. I don't remember why exactly. And then the next few scrims, they came back and scrimmed us with the comp we played.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was like, yeah, okay. But they did it better, of course.
Hmm. Well, only just. I remember that game was incredibly close, but that's the
Yeah.
thing. As said, I think lock-in, all in all, didn't go particularly bad. But as you said, after that, that was where like I feel like the 6-man roster kind of screwed you guys because there was
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
very weird dynamics. I know that Sushi Boys, at some of the times he just came in to play Killjoy and then didn't play anything else. And when you guys were using other stuff, it was kind of peculiar. How were those decisions made? Was that a coach decision? Was that a team decision? Because it seemed very messy.
So it was my decision partially and the team's partially. So
Hmm.
I was like, I really want like we came up with a plan on how we want to play the agents and who we want to put on the role. But like we only had a week before the game.
Hmm.
Before I think it was the first game in the season. So we had a week to prep that because I had Bell's palsy, so I was late to the
Okay.
Korea. So we have only a week, and then when we started losing in the first week, like it was even worse that we had to prep for the next week without
Yeah.
even having like a structured way of how we wanted to play, and it kept on going because like every week is very fast. That's why I think it was personally my fault that I kind of messed up on that decision. But it would be really harsh for me to not like have Patty play and try because we did well in lock-in
Yeah.
basically. So to me it wasn't fair for him, but it was a tough decision, I would say.
Wait, he was definitely one of the players when you kind of watch things back. It seemed like you guys were really trying to find a role that worked for him because I think obviously most people expected duelist. I think he played like Viper, he played different smokes. I don't know if he played Sentinel, but he played pretty much everything else.
He
Was
played
that
everything basically.
Oh, he did play everything. Okay. So was that
Yeah.
just again just like you know he's good enough, it's just where you want him actually played within the team.
Yeah, and also like how, because in my own perspective, like everyone else in the role does not fit perfectly as well. In terms
Okay.
of like when I was putting Dip Boys play in the team, like I don't really know where he fits at that time, and I don't really know where Patty fits in the team at that time. So we're trying to mix it up and but like it was in the season and it shouldn't have happened, I would say.
Okay. Now, something, as said, is something that earlier I mentioned. It's a gift and a curse. So, early in the season, you were trying to run some Gecko comps. Like, we saw you throw those in on Haven and Ascent. Is this just the sort of the almost Talon Xerxia X10 thing where you guys are constantly thinking outside of the box? And I don't think those comps were necessarily bad, but just with the amount of time you had, it just wasn't quite there.
Yeah, for sure. So it was Gecko was actually my idea. Like
Okay.
some of the players disagree, but then I had a picture of how I want to play it. I showed them, and they were like, "Okay, we're willing to try." But I think it was just because of the reps. We didn't have enough reps, and um, my strategy might have not been that in depth enough.
Okay.
So that's probably why it didn't work out, and we didn't have much time left because we did that and it was somehow the next thing we know it's 0-4. So we're like, okay, let's
Yeah.
just go back to the normal comp.
I have to ask one thing because there's one composition you ran which gave me nightmares. It was a watch that I didn't
Okay,
enjoy.
so triple duelist.
Oh, the yes versus
Yeah,
DRX.
that was not my idea.
Whose idea was that? Name them and
Uh,
shame them, because that was that. Honestly, that was horrific.
so basically, I was IGL for the first 3 weeks, and things did not go as planned.
Okay.
And I think it was week 4 where we played DRX, if I'm not wrong. And yeah, like I made three. I caused 3 losses in a row. So my position was like, Fox is gonna take over for that week, and then he came up with that, and it didn't work, and it was like we already have a lot prepped in the 3 weeks, so
Mm.
after the fourth week with Fox, we just go back to me calling and
Okay.
just work with like the normal stuff, and let's not go crazy about
Yeah,
those
I
kind
was
of
about
stuff.
to say that. I remember watching that, and I was like, I can't tell if this is just we don't think we can beat DRX, so fuck it, or if this was something that had like depth of plan, because it just seemed like, as said, I love that you guys go outside the box, but that one was just like someone smashed the box and just
But
went,
but
let's go
um
with this.
But to be fair, like in scrims that week, we play a lot of split because we know we were gonna pick split to
Okay.
surprise him. When we played it, we actually got very good results.
Okay.
Like yeah, we actually beat Secret at that time in scrims,
Mm.
and we beat a lot of other teams, and it was very close. Um, so it looked pretty good, but I think it was just DRX.
To be honest, that's a good excuse. To be honest, they always seem to do well. This is something else that I wanted to add is something that always amazes me with your different teams, even when you're in those sort of slumps or things aren't going well. There's always a part of me that just goes, okay, but Talon can beat anybody, and I feel like we saw that a little bit when you guys played against Paper X, and I think at the time on Pearl they were unstoppable. Like no one even got close to them, and you beat them. And I think everybody just in that moment went, what the fuck? Like how have they gone like had such a poor start to the season, and then they take that map off Paper X? Is there just something with your teams that just like on any day you can just be the best team in the world? Because that's what it feels like to me. You beat an Optic, you beat a Paper X, you can go close versus a DRX or someone like that. It just feels like there's some little bit of magic there with Talon.
Honestly, if I'm gonna be honest, I think our mechanical skills are not that far from them,
Okay.
and we have like we have a lot of synergy when we play well, like when we start
Mm.
playing well, when we get the groove, and I think that's the only problem where like when we start losing confidence, we'll start losing like a lot of games. But
Okay.
when we have confidence and like we're just confident about how we're gonna play the map, everyone just listens to the call and we just do everything together. I think that's exactly how it worked out for us for the past few years. Like we just trusted the process that what we did was right, and we just trusted each other. But then like after a few losses that we've been through together,
Mm.
and some of it might have been very tough losses. It might have caused like doubts in some of the players. That's why um in some games we looked terrible,
Okay.
and in some games we looked amazing. So I would probably say that like I don't think we are far from them, and that's why whenever we play DRX, even especially in lock-in and how we played Paperex in season, I
Yeah.
think the that's how we should play normally. But like, there's sometimes that we feel like, oh, we're gonna beat this team, and then we just get overconfident, and then we just mess it up,
Okay.
and yeah, it costs us a lot.
So in terms of last season, I think we can admit that that didn't go to plan. I'm curious for you as an IGL, what did you take away from that experience? Because I feel like up until that point, you'd always been consistently like making events and doing some damage at those events, and this was the season that just went to shit.
Yeah. Um, I think what I got away from that was like six man. I think the six man roster really
Hey
messed
T1,
it up.
how's it going?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean I think T1 is sticking to five, but
Yeah,
for me, like having six players is good. Like, we can experiment with stuff, but like in a league where you play every week,
yeah.
I don't think it's efficient. That's why.
Okay. So obviously heading into 2024 there've been some pretty drastic changes. I'm curious, as sort of like you were the Thai team, you were the team that sort of like you'd bring up these young players, you'd train them. That is now, well, gone to an extent. There's still a couple of Thai players within the team. Was there a world where you guys didn't make like the choice to go international? Like, did you have a look at the different Thai players within the scene?
I think the idea was to go international in terms of like in the first place, right
Okay.
after we placed ninth.
Fair. Fair.
I think it's more of like the management side. They really wanted to understand what we're trying to do, like how we are approaching our scrims, how we are approaching our games, how the players are um, communicating. Because in management, we use English, like, because our team is international basically.
Mm.
So he can't really comprehend like what's going on within the team because we're all speaking Thai. So it's like
Okay.
he can't really like management can't really say you're this guy's bad, this guy's
Mm.
whatever. So that's probably why we wanted to go international in the first place. But we also wanted to give like experience to players like me and Jit, where we have to learn um, from other regions, like how they think, how they play, and
Yeah.
then in the future, we could possibly go back and work the way we are right now
Okay.
with a solid five Thai player. Like if that happens, like we just need to have our basics straight because like we all started with a Thai roster. Everyone worked the way the only way we know how to
Yeah.
basically. So right now it's like night and day difference.
Is that also why you've sort of gone with the coaching changes as well? Because obviously you've brought in Frost. I know that Boy has sort of like, I think he was there earlier in the season as well. But is that why you've gone to a more like America style coaching stuff to try and bring in some of that knowledge from afar?
Yes, yes, that's for sure. Because when the reason why we got an Aaron, which is boy, I mean,
Hmm.
is because we wanted like a different way or a different look to our team on how we want to play the game, and we were just stuck with the same style for quite some time, and we don't really know how to look outside or change or if we because most people will say like if we don't know what to do we're just gonna run it down, that kind of stuff. Like we don't have a backup plan to the
Okay.
day if we're not hitting our shots. I think that's like the core problem that we had. Like if that day we're off, we don't have like a plan to fall back to.
Okay. So it's almost just like adding in some underlying structure that maybe wasn't quite there before.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, one of the things that does it's I guess a little bit sad, maybe for your side of things especially, is as I said, you, Fox, Sushi, Zeus have been on a team together for a very long time at this point. I think it's at least a couple of years with those different players. Was it difficult for that decision to be made to part ways and obviously them now go over to another team that you have to play against?
Yes, that was definitely one of the hardest decision I didn't even get to make.
Okay.
Like, I mean, it's like, um, because everything happened in trials, and there's like just internal issues that I couldn't really say what the problem was, but like, definitely if it's possible, I would like to play with the boys,
Yeah.
but I mean, after a few years with them, we know our goods and bad, and I think it's time like we need to like grow,
Okay.
I would say. So, I mean, I don't feel that terrible that I don't get to play with them, but I just feel bad that we are not on the same team anymore. Like in terms
Okay.
of like, because we've been there together for so long. That's all.
So I think for a lot of people, especially when you're going for upgrades of the team, you've gone for ban, governor, Lenny as well. A lot of people are questioning how much of an upgrade that actually is from the outside, because obviously ban leaving T1, governor coming over from the sort of tier 2 of America. I'm curious from your perspective from playing with them for a bit, are there noticeable changes of like, okay, these guys have come in from a completely different sort of structure or background and they've already brought stuff to the team?
In that perspective, yes, like they brought a lot of stuff for the team, like
Okay.
as well as the coach, and the way we play is totally different. But it's like I don't want to be a dick, but like it's like right now it feels like we have the brain, like we actually have the brain,
Okay.
but like the firepower is less compared to our previous roster. That's
Okay.
how I think it is. Like, we I think we play the game a lot smarter than how we used to play it,
Mm.
but like sometimes we just can't like just close out rounds with, you know,
That raw mechanic.
pure skills. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's raw
Okay, I get
mechanics
you.
basically.
So I assume with this team the switch has been to talk in English during that. Now I know obviously your English level is to a ridiculously high standard, but I'm curious for players like Jit Boys. Like I know I interviewed him a little bit last year, and I think he was definitely much more on the sort of Thai side of things. How has that been going for him? Because I imagine the switch for you, maybe calling has been slightly more difficult, but I feel like for him would have been the bigger change.
Um, for him, it's very tough for him. But right now, I'm not calling. It's
Okay.
Lenny who's calling. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, but he's been struggling to like. I mean, he's improving, but like it's obviously a hassle for him to switch languages, and
Yeah.
so he's been talking a bit less. I mean, a lot less, but probably that's a good thing. That's why he's been shooting a lot more.
Okay. Less talking, more listening, more fragging. That's exactly what they need.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we've seen you recently at the ESL Clash tournament, and I think it's safe to say that wasn't the greatest debut in the world. Had struggles versus Full Sense and ended up losing in the final to NKT. Now, this was very, very new for the roster. Obviously, maybe a little bit disappointed. I saw you. I think you said like it's a tournament in Thai, so you really wanted to do well at that event. Is there something
Yeah.
specific you feel like went wrong, and is there already stuff that you've gone, okay, we're fixing that. We know what the problem was.
Usually we know at that day what we're trying to fix. Like,
Okay.
yeah, we were pretty fast to look at our mistakes and like, try to fix that. But I think the thing that probably cost us a lot of rounds was because we didn't have enough reps going into the tournament, and it's
Okay.
pretty sad for our new players to be going into that tournament without a lot of prep. It was just like we had, to be fair, we had one
Hmm.
day on Lotus,
Okay.
we had one day on Split, we had 2 days on Bind, I think, or one day, but we didn't even use that comp. Like we
Oh,
threw that away, and then the comp we played on Bind was just we picked it at that moment and we just played it.
okay.
And um, we had 2 days on Haven, and then Sunset was a perma ban. So like we didn't even have the the map pool to even like be in an advantage if we got like the
Hmm.
like team A or team B, whatever. Like doesn't really matter to us. We just had to work with. That's why we were playing most of the same maps all the
Hmm.
time because we couldn't really go out to any other maps because we didn't have enough reps on it.
Okay. So in other words, people shouldn't take much away from that tournament
Yeah.
then. The guys have had no practice. Well, I want to kind of look forward a little bit because obviously you're a few months away from when the proper season kicks off. Hopefully this time you'll have a little bit more time to actually get things ready and practice. What will you say from that tournament and from what you've seen so far? What is the main thing that the team is going to be working on to make sure you're ready for 2024?
For sure synergy. Like sometimes we're struggling with like fast-paced stuff. Like for example, if they start pushing us, they start um running it down,
Hmm.
we are slow to react, or we are slow to see that, and like the second by second decision that we need to actually make, like we need to be a lot cleaner on that, I would say.
Okay.
Because I think that cost us a lot of rounds in the tournament where if we just made the decision fast enough, we would have gotten the round for free. But it was just like this guy wanted to do this, that guy wanted to do that, and like, oh yo, which one are we going? Like
Okay.
which way are we going? And like, oh, we should go that way, but then it was 5 seconds late, and then they're all there. That kind of stuff.
Okay. I want to ask you as well, like, what are your personal goals, and more so, what are Talon's goals for this next season? Because you've gone for a big overhaul. I feel like a lot of other teams have got a lot of upgrades. So, are you looking to make an international, win an international, do well as you can in the season? Like, what are the goals?
Um, I think our personal goal right now is the first season. We just need to see like if we have um the prep we need
Okay.
before the season starts. We're aiming for top four for sure,
Hmm.
and because we don't know how things are gonna go, but like we have an idea of how we are gonna play the season out, and we think we could possibly land top four
Okay.
in the first one, and then after that, changes or not, we will definitely get to like an international event.
Okay. I also want to just take a look at some of the competition because I feel like there have been some fairly drastic changes, but also you've got teams like Bleed, Scary, obviously coming back up into that tier one. Who's the team you're sort of looking at as maybe who you'd like to beat or who you think is going to be difficult to beat going into 2024?
I think a team like Paper X
Hmm.
is gonna be difficult to beat. Probably because they're ready to like brawl, and
Yeah.
that's the part where I think our players are not used to that yet because like because um Ban and Governor doesn't really have that much experience in like APAC, even though Ban was here for like the first season, but like
Yeah.
I've been playing with Paper X with my old roster for like 4 years. So like we know how they're gonna play it. Like the experience with
Hmm.
that team is there, but I don't think with this team we have that much experience together yet. So I think Paper X is gonna be the toughest opponent. Yeah,
Hmm.
but and another thing is because they have like the firepower to just even on good days, on our good days, they can just win it with like one individual.
Yeah.
Like just yeah.
They've gone for the
That's the
all-star team, haven't they?
yeah.
They've been slowly building that over the years. Well, my final question is something that I always like to ask any player, coach to do. You've got to try and like hype up the fans. So going into next year, like if you're going to try and convince the Talon fans that you guys are ready, you're going to be looking to try and, as you said, get top 4, compete for international events, how are you convincing them that that's going to happen?
I mean, like, if people know me, um, people probably know that I really hate losing,
Mm.
and um, my whole life has been competitive. When I first I want to become a dancer, so I got into a dance competition. Then
Mm.
I want to become a med student. Then I got into dentistry. Then suddenly I became a pro player. So like, there's no stopping for me. Like, if I don't win, I will win, basically.
Okay.
So I will find a way to win. Like, no matter who we're playing
Uh,
against, we will definitely find a way to win. Like, this team, this org will find a way to get to the top.
I
Like,
need that on
that's
a
for sure.
t-shirt. I need it on a t-shirt. If I don't win, I will win.
Like, that's just
Uh.
it. Like, I don't know how else to say it because, like, like, I don't know what's the point if we're here and we're not winning. Like, I'd rather just be a coach.
Fair enough. Well, as said, I'm always excited to see what you guys come up with because you have some of the most brilliant and wackiest ideas I've ever seen. And I'm looking forward to watching Pacific in 2024. Thank you very much, Cruz, of course, for joining me.
Thank
And of
you,
course,
Tom.
for everybody at home, we will see you again next week. Bye.